We are into the third year of the Wuhan virus pandemic. Cases are slowly dropping and one by one things are returning to normal. Businesses are back, sports is back, concerts are back, and so are diplomatic summits. No more waving on the phone call, no more internet glitches. Because the good old in-person summits are back. The Quad leaders met in the month of May. The G7 is meeting this weekend, and in July, NATO leaders are holding a summit. Hopefully, no more fist bumps or awkward handshakes. The bear hugs will be back. India too will be hosting an important summit, not this year, but the next, in 2023. India is the G20 chair for the upcoming year, which means the G20 Leaders' Summit will be held in India. The question is, where in India? Now, some of the meetings will be held in Jammu and Kashmir. That's right, Kashmir will be hosting one of the biggest multilateral summits next year. First, some background on the G20. It includes the 20 biggest economies in the world, 19 countries plus the European Union. Put together, they make up 80% of the global GDP, 75% of global trade, and 60% of global population. China, the US, Russia, Saudi Arabia, France, Britain, all the big powers are part of the G20. Now, these summits are not like your average diplomatic events. They're a lot more decadent, if I may, a lot more informal too. Sort of like a weekend getaway and a work trip combined. The venues reflect that. This year's summit will be held in Bali, Indonesia. The 2019 edition was held in Osaka. The 2015 edition in Antalya. 2014 Brisbane. 2011 in Cannes. Do you see my point? G20 is hosted in scenic resort locations and Kashmir fits the bill. But what kind of meetings are we talking about? The Leaders' Summit will be held in New Delhi. The preparations are already underway for that. But that is just one part of the summit. Under India's presidency, the G20 will hold a total of 190 meetings, 190 meetings across the country. Some of those will be held in Jammu and Kashmir. The preparation is already on. The government has formed a special committee to oversee the process. It will be chaired by a top official in Kashmir's Urban Development Department, tourism officials, transport officials, hospitality and culture department. All of them are going to be involved in planning these meetings. And this is a very big deal for Jammu and Kashmir, and I don't have to tell you why. The history, the politics, the security situation, all of it makes Kashmir an unlikely host. Perhaps the G20 will change all of that. This will be the first major summit in Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370. In fact, one of the biggest in Kashmir's history. But why now? What is the government hoping to achieve with these meetings? For starters, exposure. Since 2019, the security situation has improved a lot. Tourism numbers are at record highs. Now is the chance to capitalize on that, to show the world that Kashmir is open for everything, for sports, for business, even for diplomacy. Secondly, it will bring in a lot of investments. You see, hosting the G20 requires a lot of preparation. We're talking about the biggest economies in the world and by extension, some of the most powerful government officials. They need the best hotels, the best digital connectivity. And all of this will have to be built in Kashmir. This happens during every diplomatic summit. The host city gets a huge influx of money. They will have to host journalists, bureaucrats, photographers. All of this helps the local economy. But let's leave the finances aside because the political impact of this will be even bigger. Kashmir is at the center of India's conflict with Pakistan. It has seen proxy wars, cross-border terrorism, targeted killings. It has always been a sensitive issue in India's foreign policy, and all G20 members know that very well. Which is why hosting them in Kashmir could be a masterstroke, a chance to bust Pakistan's propaganda, and no doubt their government will criticize this move. It's a question of when, not if. Which means India must work extra hard to make this summit successful. Important work needs to be done. Recently, violence has returned to the valley. 22 targeted killings have been reported this year. There's talk of another Hindu exodus. Now, these threats may come from abroad, but they're affecting people in India. So the government will have to sort it out. The G20 will bring more media scrutiny on Kashmir. The international community will be watching closely. A successful meeting will raise Kashmir's pedigree. But even the slightest of let-ups could prove to be costly. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.